Ahoy, hoy. It's Trevor, and it's been a couple weeks since I've seen you. Last time I did this, there was no sound, and so hopefully this time around, the sound is actually working. And if so, that would be great. I did a presentation today to, I think they said there was about 1,400 kids, and that was a different platform, but this time, hopefully it's all good. So if you do hear me, let me know. Let me know. Let me share my screen. I'm going to share some slides here, and then we're going to get started. We got big one here. There we go. All right, great. And let me go like that. All right. So this is the return. I wasn't here last week because I was feeling a little bit odd, and Angry Astropanda says it's all good. The sound, perfect. That's a sigh of relief on my end. So it's been a while since I've done this, and I see that I put some slides here, and it says February 16th on it. That should say March 2nd. It is March 2nd. You are not crazy, but I apparently have forgot to update that first slide. Don't worry, the rest are all good. So my name is Trevor, and some of you have watched this before. Thank you for coming back. What is this series? What is this series? Well, this is all about Artemis II. And you've probably heard about Artemis II a little bit through the news last couple of months. This, though, is a weekly live stream every Monday night, 8 p.m., where I teach you about the upcoming mission to the moon. And I said I would do it until Artemis II launches. And boy, I'm still here 2 months after the first one. So hopefully it does launch soon. We'll talk about that. So each show, I do 2 topics. And each topic is about 15 minutes long. And then I do 50 minutes of Q&A at the end. So if you got questions, please let me know. And I try to focus this as much as I can on Canada. So United States, they're going to get lots of live streams and content about Artemis II and stuff. I figured I'm going to tell you about from a Canadian perspective. So who am I? Or the question you're probably saying, who are you? You're probably yelling at your TV screen or your computer screen. Who am I? I'm Trevor. I run a thing here called Plateau Astro here in Montreal, and I do school presentations, things with light bulbs and a lot of styrofoam balls and all that. And I have a mobile planetarium. This is probably the funnest part. I get to inflate a big, giant, inflatable dome inside your school gym and then bring the universe into your school. So project the night sky, the planets, we fly through the solar system, and I've been talking a lot about Artemis II in my presentations lately. So if you're looking to teach your kids about Artemis II in a cool way, hey, I'm available. Hit me up. I also worked at the Canadian Space Agency a few years ago, and I used to work with this guy who is going to the moon, hopefully the next few weeks, Jeremy Hansen. So a little bit of legitness here. Okay, let's talk about the 2 topics I'm going to be covering tonight. A lot has happened since I last did a show in 2 weeks. First topic is going to be about the changes that are coming to the Artemis program. They had an update late last week that's going to kind of change how Artemis 3 and 4 are going to be. I'm going to tell you about that. And then the second one, very poetically, we're going to talk about the bathroom. Why not? You need to go to the bathroom when you're in space for 10 days. You can't hold it in the entire time, so I'm going to teach you all about that. This live stream I'm doing a little bit different. I think I'm going to do this for the rest of the live streams. I want to give away one of these, and I'm wearing the same shirt as when I took this photo yesterday. This is a mission patch of Artemis II, the Artemis II mission patch, right there. And I'm going to give them away each week. I'm going to try to do a different patch every week if I can. So tonight I'm going to run a contest, so you can win this. I have a form, and here's the QR code for it, but I'll put the URL here. So if you're watching and you have a second screen available, or you can open up another tab or something like that, if you go to plateauastro.com/contest, you can get it ready right now. I'm going to ask for your name, email address. I'm not going to sign you up, not even for my own newsletter. I'm not selling your email address. I'm not doing anything scammy. And then I'm going to give you a secret code, So again, plateauastro.com/contest. And then later in the show, I'm going to give you a secret code. And then whoever puts in the right secret code, I'm going to draw your names. And then you're going to be in the running to win an Artemis II patch. So, say ça. All right. And I'll contact you after. I'm not going to do the draw live because it's complicated. All right. The other thing, the last thing I'm going to talk about is tonight in North America, South America, Oceania, middle of the Pacific Ocean, parts of Asia, there's going to be a lunar eclipse. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this at the end and tell you how you can kind of see it and sort of tell you what the time is. It's going to be a little bit inconvenient, but I'll tell you anyways. All right, we'll get into the topics, but first got to do an update because I've been away for 2 weeks. Update about the mission, not about me. I'm feeling much better. All right. So what has happened since? They did a wet dress rehearsal. And they did this about Thursday, February 19th. And this is where they fill up the rocket with hydrogen and oxygen. And this went great. The first time they did it, it didn't go great. The second time they did it, it went awesome. And then we were all kind of convinced that they were going to be launching in early March. Everything was going great. And a few days later, though, something came up on the rocket. Okay. So it's about on this part of the rocket, there was a leak, a helium leak. And a few weeks ago, back in January, I was at Florida, Kennedy Space Center, where they brought out the big old rocket. They rolled it out this direction. Well, a few days ago, they couldn't fix it on the launch pad, so they had to bring it in back into the VAB, or the Vehicle Assembly Building, where they stack it all here. So right now, it is no longer at the launch pad. It is inside this building here. And they got to send people there to unscrew a few things. They couldn't do it at the launch pad. They're doing it inside of the building right here. So what this means is they've missed the March launch window. Okay, unfortunate, but safety first. You don't want to screw around with helium. And so here are the new launch dates. A little bit funky here. April 1st, no joke, April 1st. And then April 3rd to 6th, they have a few days in a row. And then at the end of the month, April 30th, which I think is the beginning of a new launch window, which would mean basically May. Visually, this might be a little bit easier to see. Here are the potential dates that they could launch. April 1st, 3rd to the 6th, or the 30th. So they could launch on April Fools, potentially. And if you are observant and you are Catholic, perhaps, you might notice that this is Easter weekend. So just putting that out there too. So new launch dates, potential the next days they could launch here. What is different about this compared to what it was before? The dates before, they was all going to launch at nighttime. And sometimes at like an inconvenient time. The most convenient would have been like 8 p.m. Most inconvenient would have been honestly like 1:30 in the morning. Now that it's in April, the dates are actually, or the times rather, are a little bit more sensible. If we look at that first date there, I know it's kind of small text. On April 1st, it could launch about an hour and a half before the sun sets, meaning we would get basically a daytime or near sunset launch. And I think this could look really, really cool. So obviously unfortunate, delayed and everything like that, but we get the advantage of that. It might actually launch during the daytime, which I think is just going to look a lot cooler. So that is the positive aspect here. So that's quick update. Hopefully they fix it and get it out back to the launch pad and they can launch on April 1st would be cool, but I'll take any day in April. Okay, let's get to the main topics. And I see some of your comments there. Jack, you're 7 years old and you saw me virtually at school today, and I'll answer your question later at the end here. All right. So first topic, Artemis missions shakeup. Okay. They had an update a few days ago to say, how is this whole program going? How are we getting back to the moon? And are we doing a good job of it, basically? And you can really sense the frustration that people are having with this mission, but also kind of the program in general. So I'll tell you why. So the first mission of Artemis was Artemis I. Okay. This launched November 2022. And this is like a long time ago. This is over 3 years ago. Jack, who's 7, he was 4 when this launched. Okay, that's a long time. And Artemis II, we want to launch it, but it's at the launch pad and we had to delay it. They couldn't fuel it up properly. When you have missions this far apart, you start to lose some of that muscle. When you don't use it often enough, it gets hard to do things over and over and over again. And you just start to lose people and lose expertise. And so that is kind of a big issue when you have these gaps between these missions. So the original plan For the Artemis missions here, Artemis 1, that already launched. Artemis 2, fly around the moon this year. Artemis 3 would happen in 2028, and that one they would land on the moon. This is the original plan. And Artemis 4, 2030, and you can see these question marks there. It's like, is this going to happen? A lot of people are saying like, no, it's going to be later than that, land on the moon. Artemis 2, okay? They would do a flyby of the moon. That is still the plan. That is still the plan. Artemis 3's original plan, they would use this different other vehicle. This is the SpaceX lunar lander. This is a very, very big ship. I'll show you in a second. In the original plan, this is how it would go. They would launch another Orion capsule up into space, kind of like Artemis 2. And around the same time, SpaceX would be launching this rocket and put it into Earth orbit. And you can see that there's 2 rockets there. They would have to fuel this lunar lander a bunch of times. Some people are saying like 12 times, 16 times, a lot of launches just to fuel this thing. Then, again, continuing with the original plan, they would have the Orion capsule, like the Artemis II one, go around the moon, and then it would dock with this big, you can kind of get a sense of the size here, this big SpaceX lunar lander. It would land on the moon, and to give you a sense of the size of this, I'll zoom in, and you can see there's some tiny, tiny, tiny little people there. Way at the bottom, this is a huge spaceship. They would be on the moon for a couple days or maybe a week or so. This craft would launch back up around the moon, dock again. You can see how this is going to get a little bit complicated, okay? I'm not doing this for dramatic effect. This is actually how the original plan is. They would undock, head back to the moon, the Earth rather, and then splash down back on Earth. This is the original plan, okay? This is kind of nuts. There's so many things going on, and even I am tuckered out just trying to tell you about it. It is very exhausting, okay? Artemis 4, a lot of the same sort of things, maybe a little bit simpler, but Artemis 4, a lot of those same sort of steps, but they would use either SpaceX's or perhaps Blue Origin's lander. Again, it's a big, big vehicle. Original plan, they would land on the moon. Original plan, a lot of stuff going on here. And we can barely get Artemis 2 up around the moon. Is this really going to happen? Artemis 3, the original plan? They gave an update the other day. And you can tell they're serious because it says Artemis update behind them, all right? And they're sitting in suits and very serious, okay? Original plan. They said to themselves, okay, we're doing way too much for Artemis 2, Artemis 3, and Artemis 4. There's way too many unknowns. And those lunar landers, they've never been to space yet. They haven't even launched the rocket to put them up into space yet. And the other problem is the big orange rocket that we've been seeing, they're fueling up, having to put back in the vehicle assembly building, it's not flying enough. It's just not flying enough, and we're losing that muscle. You can barely see I don't have muscles, but we're not getting enough practice, basically. This is not flying enough. So we need to fix this. So here's kind of the new plan. Now, this is still in flux, okay? Things could change, but this is what they told us the other day. Artemis 2, it's going to be the exact same mission. There's nothing's changing about that. Hopefully it flies as soon as it can. Artemis 3, they're going to use the same lander from SpaceX here, but they're not going to fly to the moon, okay? Instead, they're going to do the test just around Earth. So they're not going to fly to the moon on Artemis 3 as intended. And what they're going to do is they're going to test docking just around Earth, okay? And you can see they have the Orion spacecraft, the same craft that's going to the moon the next, hopefully, couple of weeks here. And just docking, just seeing, hey, can we meet up in space and put these two together? Let's just see if we can do that, all right? This has been done before, some 50 some odd years ago on Apollo 8, okay? Apollo 8, they went to the moon, all right? They didn't land on it. And this is kind of like what Artemis 2 is doing. They're just going to fly near the moon and come back home, not land on it. Apollo 9, okay? They didn't go to the moon. They're going to be doing, they did a similar mission of what we're planning for Artemis 3. They're just going to go around Earth, and here's the part that actually landed on the moon, the Lunar Excursion Module, the LEM, and they're just going to try docking with it in space. They did this on Apollo 9, 1968 or early 1969, okay? You can see some photos here. These are great photos, okay? They're docking with it, and just to make sure that they can meet it up in space and that all works. So this is what Artemis 3, this is the new plan they're going to do with it. Don't go to the moon, just dock with the lander around the Earth. Okay, so when? When is this going to happen? Now, they said this without, I talked about April Fools before. They said this completely seriously. They want to do this next year. Now, we'll see. That's pretty bold to see if that's going to happen, all right? First, we got to get this off the ground first, okay? Now, that's Artemis 3. What about Artemis 4? What's the new plan for Artemis 4? Artemis 4, this, we would actually land on the moon, okay? They would have to do all that fueling stuff I mentioned before, how complicated Artemis 3 was, but hopefully we've flown enough times that we'll be able to do this. When do they think they can do that? 2028. And they said possibly they might even be able to do a second mission the same year, okay? Artemis 5, the same year, new plan, 2028. If you understand, if you know basic USA politics, you know why they're saying 2028. I'm not going to put his orange face on the screen, but they're doing this to appease the president. Okay, do it within his tenure there. Okay, so they're saying 2028. I think it's pretty bold for them to do this. Now so that we'll see if that does happen. Okay, so Artemis 2 this year, Artemis 3 next year, going around the Earth, okay? And the year after that, 2 years from now, we'll see if we land on the moon. But guy in charge downstairs, they're just trying to make him happy. I wish somebody would grow up here. Anyways, here is the infographic they have for all this. They're showing the years: Artemis 2, Artemis 3, Artemis 4, 5, 6. Okay, so they're showing a lot of steps here. Okay, and when I look at this graphic here, there's something missing. There's something missing from here. And as a Canadian, this is the part that I think we need to bring up here, okay? The part that's missing is this. And if you've been watching these all along, maybe you're kind of like, oh, I remember this, yeah. This is called Lunar Gateway. And it was the planned space station, kind of like the International Space Station, but it would be a smaller version of that would be going around the moon, okay? This was part of the Artemis plan before. It's kind of, they're not really talking about it too much. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is this part here, this robotic arm. The camera does move with me now, okay? This is how we got our seat on Artemis 2 to begin with, okay? This is called Canadarm3, and this is basically how we got our seat on Artemis 2, all right? We said we were gonna build a robotic arm for Lunar Gateway, and I don't see a Lunar Gateway in any of those infographics. So we're going to see if they're going to just cancel Lunar Gateway. What does that mean for Canadarm3? It's how we got our seat. So I'm going to watch closely what happens next for Canada. Hopefully, we're still guaranteed a future lunar flight. Artemis 2, we're still going. But we got to see kind of what happens next. So there's some major changes that happened, a lot of shakeup. For that, but I'm gonna keep my eye on what happens to the Canadarm3 and Lunar Gateway. So we'll see. That is probably the most political and in-depth and probably the most complicated topic I think I've done. So if you're like, oh, what is he talking about? Yeah, it is complicated. All right, but hopefully this does sort of speed up things and the big SLS rocket does launch a bit more. That was complicated. So now let's talk about the bathroom. First topic done. Let's talk about the second topic. Let's take a drink of water before we go to the bathroom. All right. Artemis 2 is going to have the first bathroom to go around the moon. How did they go to the bathroom on Apollo? All right. Let's get an idea here. So here's the Apollo spacecraft. Okay, so 3 men inside this capsule for sometimes 2 weeks. All right, and you can see the size of the people around it there. It's a small spacecraft, and inside of that small spacecraft and the lunar module, you have to do these 2 things. I'm gonna have to say these words aloud. I feel like I'm 8 years old, but I gotta do it. You have to pee and poop while you go to the moon. It's a long mission. All right. So during Apollo, how did they pee? How did they pee? I'm trying not to be juvenile here, but this is what they had to wear a lot of the time. All right. I swear this is not safe for work. Don't worry, nothing too visual here. Okay. They had to wear these sort of undergarments here, underwear. And they also had this thing here. There'd be a tube that they would connect to the undergarments, and they would pee into the tube. I think the tube had some suction to it. All right. And then they would store it inside the capsule for a little while. But I don't know how often they did this, but then eventually they would spray it out into space. This is how they did it during the early days of going to the moon. This is how they did it. This is from Apollo 13, if you recognize that shot. So peeing, that's how they did it in Apollo. What about poop? How do they go to the bathroom? Number 2 on their way to the moon. This. What is this? Okay. So you can kind of see there's some plastic here. There's some toilet paper looking things. There's some other things. I actually don't quite know exactly what those are. If it's not clear already, there is no toilet exactly on the Apollo missions. Okay. And this visual is very late 60s, early 70s. So maybe it'll illustrate it. This. It would be a plastic bag. You would open your suit, put this underneath you, and they would have some sticky parts to it. So it would stick to your butt, and then you would go. And this is a small capsule. There's no door, there's no private space in there, and you would just have to go. And smells would be around there, and that's that. After that, you detach, I guess, clean yourself up. I can't believe I'm doing this as a topic. My gosh. All right. And then you would close it up, roll it up, and then you can't throw it outside the spacecraft. They had to store it. They had to store it inside of the capsule for the rest of the mission. The two luckiest people in the universe at this point, the two luckiest humans, were the people who got to land on the moon, because they got to leave the capsule for a couple of days. So they would land on the moon, but nature is still out there inside of you. So they would go on the moon, and before they would leave the moon, why bring it with you? So they would just throw it onto the surface of the moon. There's literally Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and the other 12 astronauts, their poop on the moon in this bag here. And because I don't know what happens with it in extreme light and dark and cold and heat, but it's probably something is still in the bag there. They would rendezvous back with the capsule, come back to Earth, and on Apollo, they would still have poop inside of there. And they examined it, and that poop was apparently worth a lot of money for research purposes. So that's how they did it for Apollo. Now, let's get sophisticated here. Let's take a drink of water. How did they do it, or how will they do it for Artemis II? So here is the crew. And you can see the spacecraft behind them. It's a little bit bigger. They have a little bit more volume for them, but it's still, pretty tight, okay? You can kind of see it's a little bit desaturated here, but the astronauts still need a tight squeeze. And at the bottom, right about there, they have something cool. What do they have? They have a toilet. They have a bathroom inside of the Orion capsule. And so I have a video here, and this is from the man himself, from Jeremy. And so I'm just going to take this off. I'm just going to stop sharing my screen. And this should play.
So here's a little tour of our toilet trainer. So this would be the floor of the Orion capsule. We have it set up here like this so that we can practice in gravity. But this would be the door. So if you were looking at the toilet from inside the capsule, this would be the floor. You would float over to it, open up this hinging door, and float on in. So here you can see the toilet, and there's enough room for you to float in here and close the door. This is just a toilet that we use for training and mocking up things to get a perspective on how we're going to manage this system on orbit. You have a urine hose, so this is where you collect all your urine. And then this is just like a toilet seat, and this is where the solid waste is collected. The feces get sucked down into the bottom, into a bag, and you close that off and you squish it down into the bottom into the canister. During the mission, we'll have to change out that solid waste canister a few times, and all of that comes back to Earth with us. As far as the urine goes, it gets collected, and a few times a day we vent that urine to space. We're pretty fortunate as a crew to have a toilet with a door on this tiny spacecraft. The one place that we can go during the mission where we could actually feel like we're alone for a moment.
So that's how they're going to do it. It's actually seems kind of luxurious when you compare it to Apollo. So I'll just share my screen one more time here, right there. Yeah, they actually have like a toilet with a door closing in on there. All right. So that's from the Canadian Space Agency. They have some really great videos talking about different things there. So I just cribbed that there. So you've come to learn about the toilet, and I could have just sent you a link, but hopefully that was informative. So just the recap, just a little bit there. He said that there is like a tube, and so each of them have their own funnel thing. So they, I guess, put that onto there and then do what they need to do for urine. And then for number 2, for poop, there's a seat, and then I guess there's some suction in there, and it sort of sucks it in, and they put their feet in there. God, this feels so weird talking about all this. And then they push it all the way down, and then they I guess move the feces into a storage place there. And then yeah, they vent, they just dump the urine aboard, I guess a couple times a day, he said. So yeah, that's pretty luxurious compared to the plastic bag system that they had before. So it is getting better. Is it launching often as we wish? No, but it is getting better. Okay, so it's a very confined space, and here's just a photo of the 3 of them. The 4th astronaut, Victor Glover, he's not in here, but you can see just how cramped it is in there. Now this is on Earth, so you have to deal with gravity. So once you're in space, you can sort of float around and use all the space in there. But basically, this is a 10-day mission. It's like living in a very small tent for 10 days, and you have to go to the bathroom right beside your friends. Not easy. I don't have quite the same experience, but a few years ago, I was invited to come onto a sailing ship. I was their resident astronomer, and this is luxurious compared to it, obviously. At the back there, they had 2 bathrooms. I don't have photos of it there, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of that. Our bathrooms were a little bit bigger, but yeah, you couldn't put feces in the toilet there. So I'm not going to describe the rest of the system. I feel gross just saying all this stuff here. Okay, but that is how they're doing it for Artemis II, and this is going to be the first toilet to go around the moon. That's that. That's the bathroom for Artemis II. Okay. Thank you for your comments there. I'm seeing some questions and some comments there, so I'll bring those up in a second, but let's get to it. Oh, right on time. Right on time. All right, let's get to it. Let's get you winning an Artemis II badge. This bad boy right here, okay? Here again is the form. So if you're watching on a computer or something like that, or you can pull out a second device, open another tab, whatever you gotta do, plateauastro.com/contest. Okay, I'm going to leave that up there for just a second. plateauastro.com/contest. And what you're going to see, you'll see it in a second here. There's going to be 3 fields. 3 fields. It's going to ask for your name, your email address, and the secret code, which I'm going to give in just a moment here. I'm not going to use your email address for anything. Not going to sign in for my newsletter or anything like that. Okay, I will beg for that at the end of this, but I will not do that automatically, I promise. So plateauastro.com/contest. All right. So this is going to work. Whoever goes into here, puts in the right code, I'm going to draw the names, and then I'll contact you and I'll mail this out to you. That's it. And each week, I'm going to try to do a different mission patch. All right. So that's what it looks like. Hopefully you're there right now. What is the secret code? The secret code, of course, because it has to be, it is toilet. Toilet. Put in your name, your email address, and toilet. And you should be able to submit it. And I'll give you a few minutes here. Okay, toilet is the secret code. All right. While you're doing that, just ways you can support me. All right. If you've enjoyed this, again, secret code is toilet. I'll just say toilet every 10 seconds. Why not? You can buy me a coffee. If you've enjoyed these, you can just, hey, buy me a coffee. $5, buymeacoffee.com/plateauastro. Just want to support me once. But if you like what I do kind of longer term, you want to support me on a monthly basis, patreon.com/plateau_astro. That helps. All right. But probably the biggest thing is if you are a teacher or a parent or a principal or you own a school board, hire me to bring my planetarium to your school. I've gotten a lot of requests for May and June as the school year is wrapping up. March and April, I've got some good availability. So get on it. And then if you do want May and June, you better get on it quick because it's filling up quick. Again, plateauash.com/planetarium. It's affordable. It's a good way. Kids don't have to leave. No permission slips, none of that. YouTube. If you're watching this on YouTube, there's a subscribe button. You can hit it. And if you use social media, if you don't already follow me there, just search Plateau Astro. I'm there. Now I will beg, if you want to sign up for my newsletter, basically right now it's me just reminding you that I'm doing live streams, but I have some other things coming up. Spring is coming, summer is coming, so I got some stuff coming in. And other resources. I've made a page, plateauash.com/Artemis, where I'm just sort of putting activities and things for parents and teachers if students are interested. Yeah, if you've enjoyed this, but you kind of wanted it condensed into like sort of a 9-minute video, hey, I made that. That's on my YouTube channel. Biggest thing you can do though, tell people about the mission. Tell your friends about this, okay? And the last thing I'll just beg you is, beg. This is cool, all right? If you're interested in the planetarium, I'm actually doing a show, all right, in Montreal. So if you're in Montreal and you want to see the planetarium, I'm doing a show on Saturday, March 28th. I'm doing a show about Artemis II. I'm going to show you where they're going to lift off from. We're going to fly around the moon. We're going to land on the moon. I'm going to show you what it might be like, what the Earth will look like when we finally set up a base on the moon. So plateauash.com/workshops, doing that. Okay, $10. Kids welcome, adults welcome, teachers welcome. Then you can brag about it to your principal. Come on in. All right. Where do I travel to for education? Mostly Quebec, but if it's close to Quebec border, I could come to Ontario. But you can message me after, and I can help you out there. All right. Thing I'm going to end with. All right. Reminder: plateauash.com/contest. Secret code is toilet. All right. Tonight. There's a lunar eclipse. So I'll just spend a minute talking about this. Lunar eclipse. And this is where the moon goes into the shadow of the Earth. So these are photos that I took last year. It's going back and forth. And you see the moon is getting darker and red. So I took these last year during March. And here's sort of the times. This is for sort of all of Canada. I sort of generalized it. It's going to happen between 3 and 6:30 a.m. Not the most convenient time, but I don't have the exact times for everybody because it's going to be a little bit different depending on where you are in Canada. But here, if you go to timeanddate.com/eclipse, you can put in your location. It'll give you the exact times. For Montreal, it's going to start about 4:50 a.m. That's when it can start being visibly noticeable. And it's going to end about 6:30 a.m. as the moon is setting low on the horizon. And maybe, it looks like there might be enough opening for the clouds, not too cloudy. We might get lucky here in Montreal. Again, this is what it'll look like. Put in your location, and it'll give you a little preview of what it is going to look like. So lunar eclipses, they're not super rare, but if it's clear in your area, hey, you should take that advantage and go outside and do it. There will be another one. It's not total, but nearly total this August 28th, I want to say. So if you missed this one, there's another opportunity for you then. All right, that's the eclipse. I'm going to try to take some photos tomorrow morning. But now let's get into some Q&A time. So I thought that there was a few questions back here. I will just try to scroll here. Hi, this is Jack. Let's put this up there. I'm 7 and I got to see you virtually at my school day. Awesome. How does the Orion dock to a lunar lander or space station? Yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going to just stop sharing my screen. All right, and I will put that there. How does it dock to this? Yeah. So the way that it docks is there's actually a standardized system for this. During the Apollo era, way back when we went to the moon and when spacecraft used to dock, it used to be very incompatible with other countries. Okay. Since we made the International Space Station, we've actually made what was called like the International Docking Adapter. I forget if that's exactly what it's called. I don't have a photo of it anywhere on my person, but basically it looks kind of like three things sort of in a circle like this. Let's see if I can line this up like that. And the two spacecraft, they approach each other. One is usually kind of staying still, and the other one is the one doing the movement. And they get closer to each other like this. And then the three prongs, they go like this, and then they clasp into each other like that. So they get close like that, and then they sort of ratchet into each other a little bit, and then you have to wait a while before you can enter the other space station or the lunar lander or whatever. You got to make sure that there's no leaks between the two spacecraft, and you also have to make sure that the pressure. I know you're 7 years old, so these might be some complicated words. The pressure is the same. So basically, if the air pressure is too strong on one side and it's not the same as the other, if you open the hatch for it, you're going to feel this big sort of burst of air towards you like that. So if you've ever been outside or inside on a windy day and then you go try to like open the door and you just sort of feel it either like sucking towards you, you have to equalize that pressure. So it takes a couple of hours, I think, for them to sort of do that. So that's a good question. So when they dock next year, we'll see. They'll be using that international docking connector. Let me just look. I did not realize Artemis III's original plan was so complex. Yeah, it's pretty complex. Yeah. How is Jeremy Hansen feeling about the mission on the delay? Obviously, safety is paramount. Sorry that it's blocking my head here, so I'll put it up and then I'll hide it. How is Jeremy Hansen feeling about this mission? They know that this is possibly gonna happen. They're trained for this. These people, a lot of them are fighter pilots. They know that they're going to be going into the unknown. So I think Jeremy and the crew are fine. Gives them a little bit more time to sort of train for certain things maybe they didn't think of. So that's, it's not the worst thing to have a little bit more time. I think probably one of the harder things, I'm just supposing here, I can't confirm this, is on the families. So Jeremy Hansen's wife, Dr. Catherine Hansen, she has a really great Instagram account, and she's very, very open about what it's like to be the wife or the family of an astronaut who's going around the moon. And if you remember, if you've watched a few of these, they've had to go into quarantine before they go into space. Not just the astronaut, the entire family as well. And so it's 2 weeks before the mission, they have to go into quarantine. So in February, or just before February, late January, when we thought that, hey, maybe February was actually going to go, all the family got together 2 weeks before, and they were quarantining for a few days, and then they found out, no, we can't actually do it. So, Jeremy Hansen's kids, I think they live in Canada. They have to fly back home to do school and stuff like that. And then a few weeks later, like, okay, we're going to go in March. And then they fly back, and then 2 days into quarantine, like, no, there's a new issue. We can't go. Fly back to where they're from. And so I think that's probably the hardest thing is for the family to. It's stressful enough knowing your dad is going to go to the moon, or your wife, your life partner is going to go to the moon, and then you have to kind of just deal with like the stress of travel and quarantining. I think that's probably the hardest part. And I bet that probably does weigh on Jeremy as well. Let me just see here. And so I'm feeling, littering is not cool anywhere. Imagine flying. Why don't they bring the urine back? Why is it going to just vent all that into space? Smell, I'm guessing. Probably have multiple reasons. Yeah. Smell Also, I don't know too much about aero orbital dynamics or anything like that, but maybe they've like taken into account maybe they need to vent certain amounts of mass on their spacecraft to do the maneuvers right. That feels a little bit kind of a stretch to me, honestly. I don't think it would make that much of a difference. I wouldn't be surprised if they saved. I was going to say they were going to save some of it, but it would probably all be mixed into the same thing, anyways. So you wouldn't be able to get individual samples of each astronaut's urine. So I guess just venting it, maybe they're saving some of it. God, I feel gross even just suggesting so much of this. But yeah, maybe there's some research that could be done with that. But I guess venting is the way they do. What happens if the toilet system breaks? Yeah. So the first day of the mission, they don't just immediately fly out to the moon. They are going to do one orbit of the Earth, and then they're going to do this highly elliptical orbit of the Earth. And this elliptical orbit that will go away from the Earth and then come back in. I've talked about this on past episodes. And during that first 24 hours, they're going to test the toilet, the carbon dioxide scrubbers, the temperature control. They're going to test all that. If the toilet doesn't work, I'm not sure if that's mission critical or if they do have their own poop plastic bags, but they're going to be testing all of that. But it would not be good if the toilet doesn't work. Again, I don't know if they decide to come home if it doesn't work, but yeah, it'd be better if they have it. Okay, all right. Somebody's questions, it's quite big here, so I'll just put, I can't help but feel a bit taken aback by the Artemis update on Friday. Did you? I mean, it makes total sense to follow the Apollo program rollout with launches much closer than every 3 years, but the NASA commentary until Friday in videos has been much focused on a lunar South Pole landing for Artemis II. But again, NASA knows its history. Yeah. So basically the question is, if I feel taken aback by Friday. The Artemis update on Friday. I think so. There's a new administrator on one of my first streams. His name is Jared Isaacman. He's a businessman. Okay, so he takes that into account. He's actually been to space twice on private missions that he's funded. I think he's a bit more no nonsense, and he knows his space stuff. And this is probably coming from him. And he knows that there's probably better, more efficient ways to do this. I think there is sort of a lot of frustration people are having with this program. And I've thought about it in this way. When the Artemis program was announced, I think it was 2018. And they made this announcement that, okay, we're going to try to return people. And the original dates were something like we're going to fly people around the moon 2022 or 2023. And then 2024, we're going to land on the moon. It was dates that are already in the past. Okay. But let's just take, for example, 2018, when they announced this program, okay? It's 2026 right now. So that's 8 years ago that this whole program was announced. If you were in grade 4 when this program was announced, you'd be graduating from high school this year. I framed it that way just the other day. I'm like, and that just made it seem like, gosh, have we really been doing enough? Have we been moving fast enough here? I know that it's complicated, but I think there's this sort of sense of frustration that this should be going a lot quicker. And I think it's just being a little bit honest with ourselves. Yeah, that's sort of my take on it. Okay, I'm starting to go overboard, or over my time, so I'll wrap up here. So I'll share my screen, and I'll wrap up here. So thanks so much for the questions. So great, Jack. Thank you for your questions. Sorry I didn't have a visual ready for you, but if you Google docking adapter, international docking adapter, you should be able to see it. I did have a Q&A question. If one didn't come in, they'll have a fancy camera on board. How are they going to send those photos back home, or do we have to wait until they get back to Earth for them to do that? I'm going to try to figure this one out because I'm curious about this. This is from me. So, all right, next week, Monday, March 9th, 8 p.m. I'm going to be doing another live stream. I'll try to come up with the topics over the next few days. But today we I will draw to win this Artemis II patch. Next week, I'm going to do a different patch, and it's going to be Jeremy Hansen's patch. Okay, so he's hired an Indigenous artist to make his own personal mission patch. So this is going to be next week's a prize. So hopefully you want to come in next week and try to possibly win this one. So again, that's gonna be on YouTube. I will send out the link. If you sign up for my newsletter, I'll put the link in there. But I'm also going to make another Facebook event for this. So sorry I don't have those links on hand right now. But I'm Plateau Astro. Thanks so much for watching. And just to finish up, if you didn't already put it in, it is plateauastro.com/contest. Let me just find the slide here. Yeah. Okay. And the secret code again is toilet. Okay, I'm going to close the contest at 9:30. I'll give you a little bit. If people didn't watch live, you still have a chance, but there it is. I'll contact the winner, and maybe next week, maybe I'll do the draw live, but not this week. So thank you guys all so much. Yeah, hope to see you next week. I'm glad the sound on the video all worked out. So thanks for watching, and talk to you soon.